All down to Knoxville, where Tennessee has open spring this week as well. Josh Heupel met with the media, and big things on his mind. Of course, everyone's going to ask about Nico. Everybody wants to know about Joe Milton. But what I really like, let's open with this, Shane, the depth and the overall talent. And we're starting to filter in more. And you got to remember, Shane, all this success Tennessee's have, I mean, aside from portal players and a couple of freshmen, I mean, these are basically, Josh Heupel's been having a ton of success with guys that he didn't even hand select. His guys he inherited. Now we're getting more and more guys that they have actually recruited into the program to ideally fit the system. Let's kick it over to Josh Heupel on what the look of this roster in spring.
Coach,
where's Jimmy? Come on.
Year 3, and I know every team is different. How is this one different? How much more depth do you have? How different does it feel rolling into this spring with this team?
Yeah, I think for you guys, you walk out there, you can see the difference in depth really at every position. The new guys, the young guys that we've added, length, athleticism, size on the offensive and defensive lines. Much deeper than we've been. Skill spots, same thing. For us, this spring we're truly going to be able to get reps for an entire roster of guys. And, year 1, we were a shell of just numbers, but athletes on the grass that we are today. And so that allows you to, increase the number of reps that you're going to get during the spring. And it also creates a ton of competition and urgency from the meeting rooms to what you're doing on the practice field. And, the 7 weeks that we had before spring break have been great. Great competition. Guys made a bunch of strides, changing their bodies, starting to learn our schemes. But today is day 1, putting the helmets on and getting out there and doing some things for real.
All right, Shane, and you got to remember, I mean, there was times the last couple of years where Tennessee couldn't even practice up to standard because you don't have enough linemen and you don't have enough of this, you don't have enough of that. And now with, someone like Brew McCoy's a little dinged up, so, he's limited. And normally that would be a huge cause for concern, but all that is going to do is allow some of these younger, promising receivers to get reps, and that's exactly what Josh Heupel's talking about here. And, a big reason why I think the defense will take a step forward and why this Tennessee program's got a lot of staying power is because we still have yet to see the best roster under Josh Heupel at Tennessee that I think we're going to see this fall.
Dude, I mean, we were a game away to making college football playoffs in year 2. So year 3, this is when you're supposed to be judging a coach because now they've got a couple of recruiting classes under their belt. They're established. They're on a high trajectory, and that's exactly where Heupel's at. So I am very encouraged because what's hurt us in the last couple of years wasn't talent, wasn't play calling, it was depth. And we've ran out of gas toward the end of the seasons a lot of times. So I'm encouraged that my coach is coming out here and letting us know that, hey, man, we're a lot better off now than we were 3 years ago.
Right. And a big part of that, Shane, I mean, he may be the future, may not play a huge part, at least this season, is the 5-star freshman Nico. And, you got to remember, Shane, I mean, they only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks right now. So they have got to get him up to speed quickly because, God forbid, something happens to Joe Milton. He will be the starting quarterback. So It's a unique situation. But when you have a player that some regard as the best prospect in the entire country, not just quarterback, but all the country coming into your program, the highest rated recruit I think I saw in 20 some odd years to come to Tennessee. What's his coachability? And,
no pressure.
No pressure. and obviously Joe Milton, the pressure is on him, Shane, because he's got to replace Hendon Hooker, who had one of the best seasons we've ever seen from an SEC quarterback. Can he carry that mantle? Because we've seen him as a starter before a couple years ago, and it did not look good. Certainly looked good at the tail end of last season, beating Clemson. How does that translate to this upcoming season? Let's kick it over to Josh Heupel.
How willing do you think Nico is to take coaching, to take instruction, and how will you determine how fast to push him in spring?
Well, he's going to be pushed extremely quickly. Just look at where we're at the quarterback position. So great urgency is going to be needed for him. He's extremely coachable. He's a guy that's, from the moment that he stepped foot on campus, that's bowl preparation to coming back here end of January when we started the winter semester. Has been phenomenal. He's got great urgency. He cares a great deal about learning his craft, learning our offense, but learning his craft at the quarterback position. Takes coaching extremely well. He resets, moves on to the next play at a really high level. He's come in, he's worked. Guys believe in him, and I'm just talking about how he carries himself. And slowly you've seen him start to grow into taking more ownership. He's still really young, but excited to have these 15 days with him.
Are you with him in that role?
Yeah, I believe Joe will be ready to play at an elite level. There's competition at every position. I've said that from the time that I've got here. I don't care how you were recruited, if you were a walk-on or not. You started a game or a year ago, it doesn't matter. It's about who you are today, and that's why you got to be very competitive in everything that you're doing, intentional in the way that you work. Believe Joe will be ready to play at a really high level, but there's going to be competition everywhere.
All right, Shay, so, hey, based on those questions, I mean, 2 quarterbacks, that's dicey. I would imagine Tennessee will add someone via the transfer portal. I almost feel like you have to. But what's your confidence level that, Joe Milton can carry Tennessee to be at least a contender for the SEC East crown?
Well, man, you know me, Mike. We talk when we're not on the show. We're in a couple of group texts, and I'm in on Milton. I think he has the pieces. He's a big body boy. Yeah. You talk about Hendon Hooker. He was a smaller guy, and you knew he'd get banged up at some point, especially when he was mobile and trying to get outside that pocket. Milton's different. Milton's, he's 7 foot tall. What is he, 380 pounds, something like that, solid as a rock, can throw 150 meters. So, the guy is he is God's – if you're looking at – if you're building a quarterback on Madden, he's going to look like Joe Milton when you get done. So, I think he has those pieces, but it's between the ears has been his problem. It's his accuracy, and you saw flashes of it in that Clemson game where this guy, I'm telling you, if he builds that confidence, can be an absolute force in the SEC. Running Heupel's offense, it could get freaking dangerous because there's somebody that could really take the top off of defense. So I'm all in. But, I got my head coach coming out here saying, I need Nico to pick it up quick. So some of the things he's saying makes me wonder, like, why is he, because I think we see Nico at some point during the season, maybe not as a starter, but obviously he's going to be on the field. But if we do have an injury or something like that, this is another guy that's got to be able to step in immediately. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading between it's what you always try to do. You try to figure out what these coaches are really trying to say.
Let me ask you this, though, because then you made me just think of something. Would you rather have Joe Milton be so far and away better than Nico that it's not even a discussion, or would you rather Nico maybe comes out here in training camp, as we get closer to the season, they're like, my God, this guy's a real deal, and kind of not saying he wins the starting job because I don't think that's realistic, but maybe pushes Joe Milton to be even better. I don't know if that makes sense, but which would you rather have? Just Joe Milton be out of this world, or Nico kind of maybe be ahead of the schedule to where he pushes Joe Milton? What's your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Mike. And I think it's different for every quarterback competition that you see in the SEC. This one in particular, I think, has more to do with psychology than it does actual attributes. And when I'm worried about Joe Milton is I'm worried about him doubting himself. So if you're asking me which one I would prefer Milton to be out of this world much better than Nico, so he doesn't have to keep looking over his shoulder or, hey, I've got to be perfect on this pass or Nico's coming in to take this job. So I think that's what he needs is just the confidence of the coaching staff, confidence in the fan base that this is our guy. This is the one we're going to build a Heisman campaign around, Right. So, yes, that's the route I would go. But, that's different for other schools. Some other schools, they need that push to get better. I just don't think that Milton does.